Good morning, welcome to Module 11, and I want to talk for just a few minutes about term papers. I already received one from one of you, and I don't mind going over your term papers and telling you ahead of time where you need to make some corrections, but don't wait until the very last minute or I won't have time because it takes a lot of time to do papers. Term papers are important in academic classes, particularly for those of you who are going to transfer. It is assumed that you are in an academic transfer class and that you have the abilities and skills expected of anybody who is in a degree earning program. And so it's very important that you understand the value of a research paper. Somewhat, your critical thinking questions have been meant to help you understand how important it is that you research the information that you present, because you cannot just come up with your own idea and act like it's eternal truth, because you could say that you know everything and put it in print and that it's absolute truth, even though you have nothing to back up what you've had to say, no other resources. So you've got to back up what you want people to believe that you say. And that means looking at more than one resource. And in this term paper that you're going to have, you must use a minimum of 3 sources, none of which may be Wikipedia. And you must give credit in your paper for everything that you borrow or copy from any other source. So as I say that, let me explain a few rules on term papers that we're going to do. In the social sciences, APA style and format is what you use, not MLA, not just off the top of your head, but APA style and format. It mentions it in Start Here. It gives some of the rules on it, and I've given you a library link in Start Here. Iris Carroll, who is a librarian, is more than willing, as are most of the librarians at MJC, to help you. Iris produced a kind of a manual on APA style and format showing you how to do it. And you're welcome to meet with her, talk with her, get a copy of the little brochure that she did. It is an excellent source. You can also Google it. You can go online and you'll find sample papers, and I suggest strongly to you that you do so, because your paper is divided into 2 parts. Half of the points go to content and half of the points go to style and format. Because it's on Blackboard and your papers must be submitted on Blackboard, then it's harder to grade them, and I will only give you a written copy of what my comments and things are on your paper on Blackboard. You will not have it graded and marked up on Blackboard, because I'm just not going to do that. But I will tell you what you did wrong and what you did right. So as I say that, the papers are to be content-wise 7 pages in length. That's about 350 words per page. Also, they must be written correctly. You must indent paragraphs. Look and see how many spaces it is. It's different on APA, but you can't just leave it left justified. You must indent your paragraphs. You put the whole thing on double space, your entire paper, and you leave it there. Do not send single space papers. Do not send attachments. If you send me an attachment, I won't read it. So don't do it. Don't make me have to go back and tell you, resubmit the paper. Do your paper on Word, and then do it as an RTF document, and then copy and paste it onto Blackboard if you wish. Or you can just write your paper on Blackboard. But you still have to use APA style and format. The only thing that I don't ask you to include is a synopsis, if you will, that you'll see suggested in when you're doing a long paper. So you will have a title page, a separate title page, which has your name, the date, the title of your paper, the name of the instructor, which is not professor. You can put Linda Gillespie or Dr. Linda Gillespie, but you must put those things on that front page, and it must be centered. So look at that format. As I say, the little summary piece, the synopsis of your paper, is not needed in this short of paper. So you do not count the title page as page 1. Page 1, which is not enumerated, which means you don't put a number on it, is the first page of the paper. It has the title of the paper, double spaced, and the paper begins double spaced for the remainder of the paper until you get to your last page, which is called a reference page. And that page includes all of the sources that you use. And I will go from the sources that you mention in your paper to your reference page to see if you did it correctly and to see if you include it. If it's not in the reference page, then don't use it in your paper. Everything must be there. It's easy to find the format for writing a reference page. The word references goes at the top of the page, and then you put your references in the order by category of what they are. So be sure you check out to see how that's done. Once you have that, it's simple to do. In the body of your paper, you must put your references, your citations. Sometimes we borrow information from people, and when you borrow it, you still have to put a citation in your paper. Let's say that you do a direct quotation. When you cite a quotation, it goes in parentheses. Last name of the author, comma, P period with the page number, comma, and the year that was published. End of parentheses, period. That's not a quotation, so be sure you look at that. Because something that you allude to, something where you just borrow but you don't directly quote it, then there is a period, and then you put parentheses, author's name, last name, comma, and the year, end of parentheses. That's it. It's that simple. But you must do it that way, so be sure you look at that format. You must give credit for whatever you take from someone else. And in this paper, you are expected to do that. The personal pronoun I is not acceptable in a formal paper, for the most part, unless you are writing a personal thing about yourself or some instance of you. You don't put I think or anything to deal with you. The paper is not about you. The paper is about what you have researched to prove your point. Some of you work out in the field. Look and see how you put in your references or citations within your paper any information that would come from personal experience. You must cite it just like you cite anything else. Be very careful. I don't want to make this more difficult than it needs to be. But once you have learned to do APA style and format, you will find that the reason why we have it is because it makes paper writing a whole lot easier than it was years ago. When I did my dissertation, if I held it up here and showed it to you right now, it's, 100 pages of citations and chapters. There's 5 chapters in a dissertation, those of you who ever do one. You have a synopsis or summary in the front. You have a title page. You have all kinds of different pages. But it is all to make it a whole lot easier than what you're doing, because you used to put all of those citations and footnotes at the bottom of the page. And then you had to count the number of lines that it was going to take to do that and leave that much space at the bottom of the page to type it in on a typewriter. I can tell you that it was a real picnic. I retyped my dissertation, probably 25 times, because before you, in the 1990s, it's hard to say that, it doesn't seem that long ago, you didn't have access so much to doing it on a computer. You could do a little bit of copy and paste on my old Apple IIe, but not enough to be able to do your dissertation, trust me, or a term paper for that matter. So you're really fortunate because you can just do it straight, double spaced from beginning to end, and then a reference page without having to stop and fit in footnotes at the bottom of the page. That's the beauty of APA style and format. It wasn't until later that MLA came along and said, you're right, let's do it that way too. So MLA that, will let you get by with it, but I'd rather you used APA style if you're going to stay in psychology, sociology, social work, history, any of those. APA style and format is what we use. If you have questions, ask before you submit your paper. There are no redos on papers, and you may not turn them in late. So do it right the first time. You all have my telephone number. You can call me. You can send me a document to look at. But if you don't enter it on Blackboard, I'm not going to look at it. And if you had to see what happens when you put them as an attachment, I have to move them to the desktop. And most of the time, you don't put your name on them, so it makes it hard to look at. And you don't paginate, so that's hard to keep track of the pages. And then I have to move everything back over onto Blackboard to, write comments and do all of that. And it takes twice as long to do a paper that way. And I don't want to print them out, because if I print out your papers, I'm going to be doing about 2 reams worth on my printer of printing, and I don't want to do that. If it's important to you that I see it in person, you are more than welcome to turn it in to me, and you can mail it to me or you can bring it to me. I probably, unless I had enough of you, I won't go on campus just to pick them up. But you can call me and make arrangements with me on how to do that. And if you do mail it to me, put a stamped envelope in there so I can send it back to you. It will be more detailed in its grading. All right, I hope I've given you enough information. The library has information on APA style and format. Look at it. It shows you how to do the paper. You can go online and get the same thing. Purdue puts out a very nice, comprehensive plan on doing APA style and format. Use it, but understand that it will make life a lot simpler for you if you ever do a paper, if you follow the directions to begin with. I would also tell you that if I had you actually in class, I probably would give you each a copy of a 5-paragraph plan essay, much as I'm sure those of you who did English 101 have already seen. But that particular format is from the University of California and was produced back in the 1950s for the outline of how to write a paper. And the 5 paragraphs are: introductory paragraph, in it where you introduce 3 topics about a subject, and then you write 3 paragraphs, each individual, on one of those 3 things you presented in your introductory paragraph, and then your 5th paragraph is a summary or conclusion. At no place do you have any right to your own opinion until you get to the summary paragraph. And then you say things like, it can be seen through what was presented in the above, that, and then you talk about the summary that you feel you concluded, but you do not use the proper noun I. It's a research paper, and therefore it is not personal. So if you have questions on that, call me, because I know what happens, and this is where so many people, lose a whole lot of points toward their grade, and you may want that. Anyway, I look forward to hearing from you. I know that papers can be a pain, but once you learn how to do it, then you won't forget. And once you have that format down, it's always the same, and it's a lot easier to fill it in an outline form than it is to go back and guess every time about how to do it right. So save your papers. You can always redo a paper and redo some of the research to update it and use it again. That is not cheating or plagiarism. So, and I do check for plagiarism. If you plagiarize by not using citations, I will not read your paper and you will fail it. I've never kicked anybody out of class for that, but I sure will lower your grade. So I'd rather hear what you write poorly than cheating by stealing somebody else's information and thoughts. Okay, be sure you cite well, and as I say, if you have a question, ask, don't just guess. Have a great week, and I know term papers can be a pain. I have written more than my share. Thank you.